And now we'll talk about a new development. A board chronograph for the wrist, model 717. Sinn Spezialuhren is celebrating its 60th anniversary. To present our latest innovations in our anniversary year, we're welcoming a special guest who's been a follower of our brand for decades, even when facing sports challenges at -40 degrees in Canada's Yukon Territory. He says about himself that he's fascinated by anything with gears: watches, bicycles, e-bikes, motorcycles, cars and motorhomes. So in other words, toys for big boys. Technology is in his blood. His career began at Porsche. Later, he packaged this passion in expert terminology. As a hired journalist for daily papers at first, the Motor Press in Stuttgart, and for the DPA. For 20 years, he's been writing and photographing Freelance for, among others, the German wristwatch trade journal Armbanduhren and the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. He has a personal foible for chronographs and technical innovations. His reports are authentic and hands-on, because he always writes about his own experiences with the product. That's why we appreciate him so much and are thrilled to meet up again with Martin Häußermann.
Martin, this is the Narbo 17 that was developed at the end of the 70s for the Tornado program and was then built into the cockpit.
I find it noteworthy, by the way, that mechanical clocks are built into products as high-tech as fighter jets. I find it fascinating.
Well, you know, they of course have to withstand several Gs, so they had been particularly well tested. But then we considered that we should just create a wristwatch also with a minute gauge out from the middle, and in addition developed for it our SZ01 movement. And the result is this watch here, model 717, reminiscent of the Narbo 17, so we named it model 717.
Okay, so this thing is a board. It's unbelievable. I also think you were right to save this for last, because after this, the excitement would quickly ebb. That's why this is, for me, the crowning achievement. It fits perfectly with this anniversary year.
It does, and it really is a new development. It's not a variation. The watch is tegimented, black hard coated, and therefore especially scratch resistant, and has Ar-Dehumidifying Technology. And protective gas, of course, has got it all. But above all, here you can rotate the glass together with the bezel. And the advantage with this is that when the outer scale runs inside, it just runs closer to the inner scale, on the watch scale.
And near the hand.
And close to the hands, see?
When you rotate it, it's quite hard to move, which means it's harder to set it wrong by mistake. And in spite of that, it's really just super to set it evenly. Though honestly, I ask myself how you got it so tight.
You'd like to know why the watch is so tight, even though you can rotate the glass and everything?
Yeah, that's just very hard to do.
And I can show this to you now using this example here. That is, here we have made a bezel to be detachable so that here the seal inside is visible. So with the bezel, the watch is sealed, and that with radial pressure grouting. This means that the inner diameter
presses here on this, and then the inner surface of the bezel presses against the
outer surface of the bezel.
Outer surface of the bezel.
On the inner diameter, so on the inner side of the sealing bezel, the O-ring, that's how the watch is sealed. This seal, by the way, is made of a highly resistant plastic we use for almost all our diving watches.
And this seal, it then probably also has to be lubricated a bit so that the whole thing doesn't get out of shape.
Exactly. This is where a special grease is applied.
Yes, of course. I find the operation of it here makes total sense. For one thing, because it's very similar to its precursor. That's exactly how it was solved here. That's really how it's done, because pilots all wear gloves when flying. A crown here would be difficult to operate.
Yes, that's the great advantage. That is the huge advantage of this construction for this model.
Besides the technical highlights you just explained here, something I really like a lot about this watch is the extremely clear dial. So everything is so clear and distinct for reading. If you let me show this to you here. The seconds, meaning the stopped seconds, as well as the stopped minutes, are really intuitively readable. You were able to do without all the other totalizers, and that makes it really super. Super easy to read, and beautiful too, that the typology has actually been taken over one-to-one from the precursor model. I have to put it on, because that does interest me indeed, whether such a big block really works on my thin wrist. But I really have to say, under an elegant shirt wristband, I would now have a bit of trouble. But really, it is a perfect instrument watch. So then you have really succeeded in bringing a navigational onboard clock to the wrist. Even my relatively thin wrist. The watch isn't limited?
It's not limited. We haven't limited this one.
That's great. So, Lothar, thank you very much that I was allowed to be here. Here it's so similar to the presentation at the fair, even if there aren't any trade fairs taking place right now. That makes it all the nicer that you've presented to me and to others in the audience these new watches. I really like it. It's a wonderful cross-section, and I'd just like to commend you on it. Each watch is a genuine Sinn.
Thank you. You couldn't have said anything nicer.
A glance at Model 717. The cockpit wristwatch. 60-minute stop function from the dial center. Black hard coating on a TEGIMENT technology base. Ar-Dehumidifying Technology. Sapphire crystal glass. Interior pilot's bezel with luminous key mark. Waterproof and pressure resistant to 20 bars.